What's up, guys? Welcome to Sugar High. I'm PA David, and I'm a real-life board-certified and licensed diabetes specialty PA practicing in Southern California. Sugar High is a channel that's designed to bring you guys easy to understand diabetes information, and today's video is an update on the information I previously provided on a medication called Rybelsus. A while back, I made a video all about this medication where I covered how it works, the efficacy, the side effects, and so on, but one thing you gotta know about a healthcare-related YouTube channel is that things are bound to change. New information becomes available, and doses might get updated, and once in a while, we gotta make a video like this one to bring you the most current information. So let's catch up on what's new with Rybelsus. Okay, so just by way of a quick background, Rybelsus is the pill version of a medication called semaglutide, which you've probably heard of before. Rybelsus is actually the same medication as the very popular type 2 diabetes medication Ozempic, which has gotten a lot of attention for its weight loss effects. But Ozempic is injected once a week as opposed to Rybelsus, which is that same medication but in pill form, taken once every morning. As of the date of this video, it's the only non-injected medication in a category of diabetes drugs called GLP-1 receptor agonists. I know of at least one other oral med that's currently in development in a clinical trial right now. And when that becomes available, I'll let you know all about it on this channel. But right now, Rybelsus is the only medication in this family that's available in an oral formulation without an injection. So if you want to know the specifics about how Rybelsus works and what the side effects are, I'd encourage you to check the longer video on my channel. I'll link it here and at the closing screen of this video. And then maybe once you're all caught up, come back to this one to see what's new. Okay, so what's new with Rybelsus? Well, probably the most important thing to discuss right now is something that you guys have mentioned a lot of in the comment section of that other video. When I made that video, Rybelsus was manufactured and distributed and shipped in these larger like blister packs, which had to slide open to be used, and each card held 10 pills. So that means that a 30-day supply of these things had to come in a pack of 3 in a larger box like this. And a lot of you watched the demonstration about how to open it and commented like, hey, wait a minute, my pills didn't come in a blister card like that. What's up? Did I get the wrong medication? Well, don't worry. If you got a bottle that looks like this, you did not get the wrong medication. Rybelsus now comes packaged in these individual plastic bottles. A while back, Novo Nordisk, the company that makes this stuff, decided to change their packaging to a smaller bottle that would hold the entire 30-day supply. And here's the reason why there was a change. Part of the problem that required these blister packs was that these tablets are sensitive to ambient moisture, so they need to be kept dry. Pharmaceutical companies will normally ship giant bottles of pills to a pharmacy, and then the pharmacist will count out the number of pills that you need, and they give you those regular traditional pharmacy bottles, and then you just take a pill every day, right? The remainder of that supply would then stay in that giant bottle until the next person comes in to fill their prescription. But if they did that with Rybelsus, sitting in that regular bottle, like a regular old orange pharmacy bottle, would cause the pills to get ruined by the ambient moisture in the air, and they'd lose their effectiveness by the time you actually swallow it. This would especially be a problem with more humid environments, and that's the reason why they advised people not to pop the pills out of these blister packets and leave them in here until the day that they took it. Packaging pills individually sort of kept them protected and kept their effectiveness intact. The problem with that, though, is that this was never really that convenient for anybody. In addition to the extra space that it takes up in your medicine chest, I got a feeling that it probably cost more for the company to produce and probably was more expensive to ship because of the space. So Novo Nordisk, the company that makes it, decided that they needed a packaging option that had a smaller footprint. So to get past the issue of humidity in the air, they used a bottle that has a little desiccant built into the cap. If you open a bottle of Rybelsus and look under the cap, you'll see that there's this little cylinder object that sort of fits in the bottle when it's closed. Inside it, there's some grainy stuff. You could probably hear it if I shake it, and that's a desiccant. I imagine that it's probably the same kind of stuff that's inside that little do not eat packet when you buy a new box of shoes. Anyway, if you leave the pills in the bottle, Every time you take one out and then replace the cap, all the ambient moisture in the air gets sucked into that desiccant and these little pills are protected. The colors of the bottle follow the same color scheming that the boxes had in order to indicate the dose. The green label on this bottle tells you that these are 3 milligram pills, just like the box was kind of green. The red label, which I don't have an example of, indicates the 7 milligram dose, and this blue bottle tells you that it's the 14 milligram dose. Okay, the next Rybelsus update has to do with the United States FDA, so it may or may not be interesting to you depending on which country you're watching from, but I found it interesting as a prescriber, so I kind of wanted to talk about it. Since the time Rybelsus was first approved by the FDA in late 2019, the FDA put this caveat on its label, stating that Rybelsus should not be used as a first-line medication for treating type 2 diabetes. In other words, if you're about to start your first diabetes medication, your healthcare provider should start you with something other than Rybelsus. And this was kind of confusing because Rybelsus was approved as a monotherapy, which means that it's okay to take it by itself. So how do these two ideas coexist? Well, the idea was that metformin has been known for such a long time to be a pretty strong combination of safe, effective, and cheap. And since Rybelsus carries this warning about a rare type of thyroid cancer, we should use it before metformin if we can. But if metformin isn't appropriate for a particular patient, or if it caused too many side effects or something, then it's okay to use Rybelsus as a second choice option, even if it's being taken by itself without metformin or some other diabetes drug. But after reviewing a lot more data that was collected in several different clinical trials and post-marketing adverse events reports, it became more apparent that those safety warnings about Rybelsus may have been a little bit overstated. And there's really not much reason why a patient can't use a Rybelsus as the first diabetes medication if it's appropriate for him or her. That rare thyroid cancer concern was only even ever seen in rats and mice, not humans. So the warning stating that Rybelsus shouldn't be used first line was dialed back, and the FDA now gives its blessing for Rybelsus to be chosen as the first diabetes medication in patients for whom it's appropriate. That being said, just because the FDA says it's cool doesn't necessarily mean that your insurance company is going to want to jump straight to paying for Rybelsus. An insurance company is much rather going to be happy paying $4 for metformin than like $800 for Rybelsus if they think that they'll both accomplish the same thing. So depending on your healthcare plan, don't be surprised if your insurance still insists that you try something cheaper like metformin before they're willing to cover Rybelsus at that higher cost. All right, so there's your current update on Rybelsus as far as what's relevant right now. But what do you have to look forward to in the future? I can almost guarantee you that there's going to be another Sugar High video update on Rybelsus because of some very interesting clinical trial data that was recently reported that I think is probably going to change the way that we use this medication even more. So a recent clinical trial studied even higher doses of Rybelsus than the current 7 and 14 milligram doses. When Ozempic first came out, the maximum dose on that medication was a milligram per week. But then they found out that when they raised the dose up to 2 milligrams, it was even more effective for both A1C and weight reduction without much of an increase in the side effects. So now the currently approved maximum dose of Ozempic is 2 milligrams. Well, they did something similar with the medication Trulicity. In a recent study called Pioneer Plus, they found that 25 milligrams and 50 milligram doses of Rybelsus are even more effective than the current maximum 14 milligram dose. In that clinical trial, the patients that took the 14 milligram dose ended up getting about an average A1C reduction of about 1.5%. That's like the average of everybody participating in that study. But in the group that got 50 milligrams, those people achieved an average A1C reduction of about 2.0 milligrams. And going from that 14 milligram to the 50 milligram dose only resulted in a very slight increase in side effects. There was also significantly more weight reduction seen in the 25 and the 50 milligram doses as well. So as of the date of this video, 14 milligrams is still the current maximum available dose. But I'd be willing to bet that at some time in the next year or so, I'm going to be back here giving you guys another update about new, more effective doses being made available for Rybelsus. Something else you might see in the not so distant future is that Rybelsus may become available for people without diabetes who need some help to lose weight. A clinical trial was recently done on that 50 milligram dose we were just talking about in people without diabetes, and the folks who took that medication achieved an average of just over 15% reduction in their body mass compared to just over 2% in the people that got a placebo. That doesn't mean that everybody in the study got exactly 15% of their starting body weight. Some people lost more, some people lost less, but the average across the entire group was about 15% of whatever the average starting body mass was. If the FDA approves semaglutide pills for weight reduction in patients without diabetes, it'll probably end up getting a different name though. They probably won't call it Rybelsus. Ozempic was approved for the same purpose, but when they approved it for weight reduction in non-diabetic patients, they called it Wegovy. It's the same medication, just with a different name. There's no telling right now what the medication name would be, but we'll see what happens, and if it ends up getting approved, I'll let you know about it, including its new name. One last bit of news to watch for is in regard to the indication to reduce cardiovascular risk in patients with diabetes and heart disease. Ozempic already carries an FDA approval to be used specifically for the purpose of reducing the chance of major cardiovascular events like stroke and heart attack or cardiovascular death beyond just its effect on blood sugar and weight reduction. But Rybelsus, even though it's the same medication as Ozempic, doesn't technically yet have that FDA approval. And that's not because we don't think that it would be protective, but just because the cardiovascular safety study that they did on Rybelsus wasn't really set up to prove that kind of protection. It has to do with statistics and it's boring math stuff. But it was really just designed to show whether or not Rybelsus causes any cardiovascular harm, which it didn't. But a much larger clinical trial is currently underway that is designed to prove whether Rybelsus reduces cardiovascular risk. So when that study completes in the next year or so, we may find that Rybelsus protects the heart and stroke risk in the same way that Ozempic does. And if that happens, I'll let you know. There you go, guys. There is your late 2023 update on Rybelsus. Thank you for powering through to the end. And if you've been watching Sugar High videos for a while, thanks for hanging in there for the release of this video. This was a long overdue video, and I'm really grateful for all of you guys for sticking around. And I really look forward to talking to you guys more in future videos. Question for you guys. I'm curious, if Rybelsus becomes available for people without type 2 diabetes, would you take it to help with weight reduction? Ozempic and Wegovy have been so popular that they can't make it fast enough to keep it on the shelf, so I'm kind of curious to know how this would go. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below, and if you take Rybelsus now, tell me, share with me what your experiences have been like. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you guys. I'll see you again soon, right here on Sugar High.